And so today I just wanted to do a quick demo on one or two simple ways for how to use the Nuvo embellishment mousse. So I'm going to show you how to apply it over a stencil and then also how to make it into sort of a metallic watercolor effect. I also at this time am going to sort of feature, I don't know, maybe some of you have seen before some of those trendy new layering stencils that all the companies are coming out with. And we have a bunch on order from, I think, Alt New and also, who else?
Can you spotlight yourself?
Pardon?
Can you spotlight yourself so we can see you bigger?
Yeah, you bet. All right.
Please.
Yeah, no worries. So anyways, there's a whole bunch of companies who are coming out with these layering stencils, and we have a bunch on order, but I wanted to try and make some as well because we do make custom stencils at the store all the time. Also, so I will be showcasing, like these stencils won't be ready for sale, my layering stencils, until probably end of next week. But I will show you how to use these layering stencils, either the TM exclusive ones or, you know, maybe one of the other brands that you already have or are looking to get in the future, some of the new ones. So I'll sort of be spotlighting both layering stencils and the Nuvo embellishment mousse. So without further ado, this is the first little project that I am going to demonstrate how to make. So this is just a 6x6 piece of paper that I've cut out. It would make a really pretty embellishment on a page or in an art journal or background for a card. I've chosen 3 colors of embellishment mousse because this particular layering stencil has 3 layers. Some of the layering stencils will have more, and if that was the case, you could go ahead and pick, you know, more colors to suit whatever pattern or project you were working on. But this particular layering stencil has 3 different layers, and so I chose 3 different embellishment mousse colors. And I went with aquamarine, which is sort of this blue color here, poppy pink, which is obviously the light pink, and forest green is the green. And now I personally like to use finger daubers for applying the embellishment mousse over a stencil. I've seen people use bigger blending foam or their fingers or a paintbrush, like a dry brush. I'll be using a wet brush later. I personally like a finger dauber, so that's the way I'm going to show it. And then if you look closely, not only have I gone over the stencil to finish this piece, but you can also use the same technique and edge the edge of your paper as well and give like a nice finished edge around the border of your project as well. So I will be showcasing that as well. All right, so I am going to just pick a color to go first. It doesn't really matter in this particular instance which one I start with, so I'm just going to go ahead and open the green. So I'm going to lay my stencil down over top of my piece of paper. It's a 6x6 stencil and a 6x6 piece of paper, so they just fit properly, perfectly, one right on top of the other. You take your finger dabber or whatever piece you want to use to apply your embellishment mousse, and I just sort of dab, dab, dab into the tray, and then it does, like, I'm barely even touching, like I'm so gently dabbing, and it grabs already like quite a bit. A little bit of this mousse goes so far, so then I even take it one step further. I've barely grabbed any, and now I'm dabbing some of the extra off on the edge of the stencil before I get started. And then it's just like little circular motions, and I'm just rubbing the ink over the stencil. Go grab some more, dab the excess. And ink. So the technique and the sort of motions are very similar to using a distress ink or other type of regular stamping ink, but it has a much more lustery, sort of shiny metallic finish, so it's a really pretty look, and it does hold its texture, so you'll get, like, it's hard to show through camera, but like along the edges you'll get a little bit of buildup. So there is a little bit of texture and added depth and darkness along the edges because it does sort of pool up on the edge a little bit, and it gives you like a darker, sort of more outlined look, where an ink doesn't really do that. Like a flat distress ink or something wouldn't give you that same effect. So It's a super cool product with some super cool features when you are using it over a stencil, but conceptually it's the same idea as a distress ink. You apply it the exact same way and it's doing the same thing, covering the surface of the paper that's showing through the stencil with a color. Almost done. And once that is done, your first color, you can just lift your stencil up. Ta-da, it's like magic. Okay, so then you're gonna take your next stencil and you can see through it. I just gotta figure out what direction it goes here, like that. And I'm just gonna line it up with the original one because these stencils are semi-translucent, right? I can see through to know where I'm going to want these next images to show. It is, I mean, because this stencil is the same size as the paper, I'm really just lining the edges up. But if that wasn't the case, you can see through to line up the pattern. Switch to my blue, or I guess aquamarine embellishment mousse. Same thing, dab, dab, dab into the mousse. Get the extra off if you got big chunks. And then if you have your pixie spray or whatever, you can use that. But for this particular stencil, like none of the elements are really that detailed or flimsy, so I have no issues just holding it in place with my fingers. I like the pixie spray when the image that I'm using has really fine, delicate lines, but this image is actually quite chunky. So it's pretty easy to keep steady and keep all the pieces down that you want to. You just kind of have to move your hand around with the project as you go. And if you want more of a build-up along the edges of the shape, you can just not dab the excess away. If you just leave the build-up on your dabber and then go in, it will cause there to be a deeper, darker build-up along the edges, giving you more of that sort of dramatic, darker line. All right, second one done. And then one more time, I'm just gonna take my stencil, line it up, which is easy to do because it's translucent and I can see right through to my bottom image and line it up exactly how I want it to be. I'll put my aquamarine away and I will grab my poppy pink. This is such a pretty soft pink. This color is gorgeous. All right, final time. And this one, because the color is so soft, I did use a little bit more of it. But the tone on tone is really nice. Like the soft pink on the white is actually really pretty. Like it does not take, because it's so shiny and shimmery, you don't need as much of the color contrast for it to still show, because just that sort of different finish, the metallic sheen to it, gives enough of a contrast against the flat white cardstock that the color itself doesn't even really matter. All right, and that is, oh, I lied, I'm not done yet. 3 more pieces. All right, so that is how easy it is to use a layering stencil to create a multicolored single pattern project. So that is the embellishment mousse. I'm really going to be excited about being able to do in-store demos again, because the camera doesn't really give justice to the finish of this project, but it's beautiful. And then I am going to, the pink is pretty light, so I'm going to go back to the green to do the edging, to show you how to do the edging around the edge. So you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to just gently dip your finger dauber or whatever you're using to apply it into your pot, and then just rub it along the edge just like you would, oh, I got a little crazy there. Just like you would with your Distress ink or paintbrush or whatever you would normally be using to edge your project. But it's just really cool because it's got such a nice metallic sheen to it. It's just a very unique finish, and it's going to match your colors and finish from the project itself on the center. So just like that, in no time flat, you have a really cool card base or embellishment for a project. Just
How
like
fast did it dry, Chantel?
Oh,
did you say?
it's dry, like no time at all, really. If you were applying this with like a palette knife over a stencil and it held thick, it would take a little bit longer, but it's pretty fast drying. Like even the edge, like I just edged, it is 100% dry.
And is it like you said? It's like is it like a what kind of texture is it? Like is it like a mousse type texture?
It is very moussey, yeah. Yeah, it's very creamy, very smooth.
Oh God, now I'm gonna need to buy something else. Thanks a lot.
it's there. I wish that it showed better through the camera. Like the sheen on it is so pretty. They're gorgeous. I love them. So that,
yeah, like I need to shop more.
Right. Yeah, it's always a struggle for you to find things to buy, Monica. So I'm glad I could help.
Definitely need to shop at myself.
Oh, they're awesome. And then I'm just really quickly gonna show also how you can turn it into more of like, because this obviously like over a stencil, you've got like really crisp, clean, pretty, perfect lines. But if you wanted a softer look, like you can turn it into watercolor paint just with a little bit of water and paint with it. Like you can see in the background there, I've painted with it, and then I just applied over a stencil over top to show that you can layer the colors and they stay, like they don't muddle. Like that's a blue on top of a green and it's blue on top of green. So you can layer them really nicely. So I will just really quickly show you. I've just scooped some of the aquamarine out of the pot with the bottom of my paintbrush, or you could use a palette knife or whatever. So I just scooped some and stuck it onto a non-porous surface. Like I'm just using blank stencil material, but you would use like your non-stick craft mat or whatever you have at home that you work on that is a non-porous surface. Then just grabbed my little paintbrush, dipped it in some water, and then I'm just going to put the water over top of the mousse. It's been sitting here for a little bit, so it'll take me a minute. If you had just scooped it, it mixes faster. And then you take that and you just paint. And it is that easy to turn it from a creamy sort of like, almost like a texture paste, but like much creamier, into like this like fluid, soft watercolor, but metallic watercolor paint. So super pretty, and obviously again that's going to dry so fast because it's just very thin, gentle, soft look. Does anybody have any questions?